Good afternoon, Rotarians, friends, and guests. I'm Hannibal B. Johnson. It's my privilege as president to welcome you to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. It's February 27th. Black History Month is drawing to a close. Let's reflect on the words of Franklin Thomas, who's an activist, philanthropist, and former president of the Ford Foundation. He said, "One day, our descendants will think it incredible that we paid so much attention to things like the amount of melanin in our skin, or the shape of our eyes, or our gender, instead of the unique identities each of us as complex human beings possess." If you haven't already done so, please take a moment now to silence your cell phones. Let's begin our program with the invocation from Jerry Dillon, followed by song and pledge from Michelle Place, and visitor introductions from Michael Turner.
In the Holy Book, it talks about the mustard seed. If I had one in my hand, you couldn't see it. It's smaller than any seeds. And it's in the spirit of a mustard seed that I want to pray today. Most Holy One, we are truly blessed as Tulsans who live in a city filled with beautiful parks provided by the generous gifts from our citizens and businesses that meets our indispensable need for recreation and learning opportunities that benefit our health and well-being. May we never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. That indeed is the only thing it ever has. So we ask that you inspire us to travel the road that's less traveled, one that thinks more highly of others than of ourselves. So help us to be warm and loving, contagiously joyful, actively peaceful, compelling, patient, respectfully kind, always good, unwaveringly faithful, humbly gentle, vigorously self-controlled, and always aware that we have the opportunity to have your spirit within us. And because of those who have that spirit, you don't want it to be hibernated within us. You want that spirit to shine a light through us, that this is the person that we want to be. In your name we pray. Amen.
Well, good afternoon. Let's sing our national anthem together. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose hot stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, bells bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone, to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. And regardless of the cold, rainy weather outside, it's always a beautiful day inside Rotary Club meetings. So we're delighted to have you here. I'm going to introduce our visitors and visiting Rotarians. I'll ask that the host Rotarian and his or her guest please stand and hold your applause until the end. Michelle Place has with her J.D. Colbert, and he told me J.D. reminds him, or to remind him of Jack Daniels, J.D. Colbert, so that was good. With First Cross Bank, Tim Caldwell has Richard Bales with Tulsa County Parks. Good to have him here today. Brady Nguyen has two guests today, Vince Trinidad with Tulsa Sports Commission, and Shelly Aberson. And can't pronounce all those, and we couldn't read them, but it's a lot of names. Thank you. Justin Jones is with Casey Polk. Justin's with Tulsa Technology. Good to have him back. Ansley Stanford has Derek Alexander with Financial Northwestern Mutual. Kurt Helen has Charlie Helen, his son. He said not yet a profit-making business, but good to have him here. We have a huge delegation from the Rotaract Club today, and if you don't mind, I'll just read your names and ask you all to stand at once. Hannah Fitzgerald with Rotaract, Cole Admondson, Jessica Carney, Bobby Scott, and Kevin Flynn. Great to have you guys here. Thanks for coming. And we have one visiting Rotarian with the Sand Springs Club, Harlan Pinkerton. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jerry, Michelle, and Michael, and a special thanks to this week's meeting sponsors: Richard Properties, Bill Richard, Chenoweth & Cohen, Carragay Neal. Committee meetings today: Above and Beyond, room 233. Programs for 2019-2020, room 234. March 6th, international best-selling author Adam Makos will be our guest speaker. He will talk about his new book, Spearhead. The following week will be our Above and Beyond Award, so you don't want to miss that. In case you missed the IBA article in the Tulsa World magazine, you'll find a copy on your tables. It's really an exceptional and well-done article and tribute to the IBA Awards. This week's Rotary inspiration is Michelle Place. An anonymous Rotarian writes the following: I'm always inspired by the enthusiasm and energy of Rotarians, but one in particular is Michelle Place. She always has a smile on her face and is incredibly engaging. She simply doesn't know a stranger and never lets an opportunity go by without asking them to join our club. Now that's commitment. She takes Tulsa and its history around the world, and that includes Rotary. Her outreach is all about service above self and with integrity. It's a joy to have Michelle representing us, and occasionally in the role of Sarge, which she does with grace and humor. I'm proud to have Michelle as a fellow Rotarian and friend. So Michelle, on behalf of the Rotary Club of Tulsa, please accept your Rotary International themed Be the Inspiration lapel pin for being our Rotary inspiration. Michelle Place. At this time, it's my pleasure and privilege to introduce past President Jeff Hazel with a memorial resolution. Jeff.
Thank you, President Hannibal. Before I start on the memorial resolution for our fellow member, former member Paul Johnson, let me introduce some special guests who are with us here today. First of all, his daughter-in-law, for all intents and purposes, his daughter, Beth Johnson. Beth, please stand and wave. I didn't warn you that was coming, but... And then also several of Paul's colleagues from Gable Gottwalds are here, so real quickly, we have Laura Roy, Paul Rossler, Debbie Schmidt, Amy Miles, Scott Zingerman, Jim Lee, and Frank Catalano. And the fact that so many people are here who worked with him just tells you a little bit about what a great guy he was. Thank you all for coming as well. Now for the resolution. Be it resolved that members of the Rotary Club of Tulsa learned with great sorrow of the death of Paul Houston Johnson. Paul served in the Rotary Club of Tulsa for 14 years. He was born in 1926 in Sperry, Oklahoma, and after graduating from high school, served in the United States Navy for 2 years, 1944 to 1946. He then attended Oklahoma State University, where he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering in 1950, and in 1957 he became a lawyer, getting his degree from the University of Tulsa. After college, Paul moved to Tulsa to set up his home and began attending Boston Avenue Methodist Church. And it was at a church picnic where he met the love of his life, Ruth Jones. They were married in 1952. The couple was blessed with 2 children, Jeff and Lisa. A humble man, Paul rarely spoke of his professional accomplishments. He worked for the Tulsa County District Attorney for a period of time, and in 1958 he joined Jim Head to create the law firm of Head and Johnson, specializing in intellectual property law. After Paul retired from that firm, he joined Gable Gottwalls in 2002 and worked there until 2015. Over the course of his career, Paul was honored many times for his work in the area of patents and trademarks. Paul loved his community and he loved helping others. In addition to being an active member of the Rotary Club of Tulsa, he was also active with the Tulsa Downtown Lions Club, the Green Tea Club, the Masonic Lodge, and the Thomas Gilcrease Museum Association. He served on the board of directors for Family and Children's Services, the Board of Commissioners for the Housing Authority of the City of Tulsa, and the Will Rogers Memorial Commission. Paul took up running in his 50s and often ran 100 miles a week. He participated in a number of marathons and much preferred them to 5Ks, which he called too short. Now, I'm off script for a minute to tell you that I first laid eyes on Paul Johnson on a dark and cold winter morning in the 1990s. In the distance, I saw this skinny man with a sort of a funny gait holding trash in both of his hands. He was kind of halfway walking and halfway running, and I would see him in a similar situation literally for years, and then he joined my law firm in 2002. Then all pieces came together. He was always taking care of his beloved river parks. Paul also loved to travel with Ruth. Together they visited over 76 countries. An avid woodworker, Paul made furniture, including grandfather clocks, and with the help of Ruth, the couple created hundreds of handcrafted gifts over the years with which they blessed friends, work colleagues, and family members. He and Ruth loved hosting gatherings at their cabin on Grand Lake. He most of all enjoyed spending time with his family. Paul was also a writer, and his family has brought several copies of his book, Conversations, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad. They're available for all who would like a copy, free of charge, out by the badge boxes where you put your badges away, and they really would like you to take a copy of the book in Paul's memory. Paul will be remembered for many things. He was a brilliant attorney, a tireless community servant, a beloved husband and father and grandfather, and one of the nicest people you will ever meet. Many years ago, John Henry Cardinal Newman defined a true gentleman, and this perfectly describes Paul Johnson. The true gentleman avoids whatever may cause a jar or a jolt in the minds of those with whom he is cast. All clashing of opinion or collision of feeling, all restraint or suspicion or gloom or resentment, his great concern being to make everyone at ease and at home. He has his eyes on his company. He is tender toward the bashful, gentle toward the distant, and merciful toward the absurd. He can recollect to whom he is speaking. He guards against unseasonable allusions or topics which may irritate. He is seldom prominent in conversation and never wearisome. He makes light of favors while he does them, and he seems to be receiving when he is really conferring. He is never mean or little in his disputes, never takes the unfair advantage. He is patient and forbearing. He observes the maxim of the ancient sage that we should ever conduct ourselves toward our enemy as if he were one day to be our friend. Paul Houston Johnson will be greatly missed by his friends here at the Rotary Club of Tulsa. I move that this resolution be adopted by a standing vote of the club. May we rise for a moment of silent tribute to Paul Johnson.
Thank you, Jeff. The Rotary Club of Tulsa will continue to embrace the Johnson family. I'd like to invite our 2018-2019 Membership Service Director and past President Chuck Wilson to the podium to introduce Rotarians who will be presented with their blue badges today. Past President Chuck.
Well, I am particularly pleased this year we have had so many outstanding men and women join our Rotary Club. And today, I'm going to introduce to you those who have been a part of this club for several months now. During the first 6 months they're with the club, they wear a red badge, designating their membership so that those in our club will recognize them and greet them warmly, as well as to get them engaged and involved in our club. So as I now call your names, would you please come in front of the head table and remain there while I introduce all. Eddie Barclay, Prima Donna Braddock, Byron Burke, Mike Corey, Sheena Graywall, Jenny Hammock, Michelle Hammond, Kurt Helen, Brady Wynn, Matt Redmond, Daniel Reagan, Tana Scott, Dave Stout, and Debbie Stumps. My goodness, look at this great group of Rotarians. Would you please congratulate them? Mr. President.
Thank you all and welcome. Just a few announcements. First up is Lynette Potter, Social Committee, talking about Circle Cinema social event that's coming up.
Hey everyone. So, what is polio all about? I keep on coming up to that. The movie Breathe. It's a fabulous, fabulous depiction of based on a true story of how polio was back in the 50s. I encourage you and invite you. This is going to be our Thirsty Thursday event, March the 7th, Circle Cinema. It starts at 6. You do need tickets. Tickets will be sold in the back on your way out, as well as they're now on DAC-DB. There's only 55 seats left. And there's only 82 seats in the whole theater, so hey, that's all we can do. So I encourage you to get your tickets now, and it's now on Facebook. There's many of you, when you walk out of here, you're going to be noticing you've been tagged. So go ahead, invite your sweetie, and come on out.
Thank you, Lynette. Next up is Jonathan Slay, talking about Junior Achievement and the Dust Bowl social event. Jonathan.
Thank you, President Hannibal. Also going to welcome Jessica Carney to join me for a minute here today. We're excited about Junior Achievement. We recently partnered with them to help those kids learn about financial literacy. And Brian Jackson's over there with our group from Rotaract. We just wanted to celebrate what we're doing to help kids learn about how to become financially independent and learn concepts that will help them and their families for the rest of their lives. So we went out and did a little presentation with them this past week at their little town hall. It's called BizTown. It was a lot of fun. And also, we want to share with you an exciting social event coming up, and Jessica's going to tell us a little bit more about that in a second. What it is to celebrate World Rotaract Week. So it's every March. We want to get the word out. It's kind of like the awareness month for Rotaract. So we want to invite a lot of young professionals. Maybe you have a friend that you know you'd like to bring out to come have fun with us and go bowling. Jessica, why don't you tell us about that?
Well, thank you for your attention. Let me get this so I can see. Half of you can't see me anyways, but please come out to Dust Bowl. We got the private room, and we're going to have a blast, and we would like to just mingle together as Rotaract and Rotary. We're trying to make sure you all know we're out here trying to make a difference as well, and we really appreciate you having us out. So please come and join us. Let's have some fun together.
And in order to sign up, we do need you to RSVP. And on your table, there's a little ad at the very bottom. Is our website for our club. There's a link there. You can sign up there. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Our Rotarian of the day is John O'Connor. Past President John O'Connor is a shareholder with Hall Estill. He practices primarily in the areas of corporate and business law and litigation. John is a Paul Harris Fellow and has been a Rotarian in our club for 35 years. Please help me welcome past President John O'Connor.
Thank you, President Hannibal. Well, we're very fortunate today to have a passionate Tulsan as our speaker. I want to introduce to you Anna America, and first I want to tell you a bit about her background. She is a University of Tulsa graduate. She moved here when she was age 16, started her professional career as a newspaper reporter with the Tulsa Tribune. She covered City Hall and the U.S. Capitol. She worked as a journalist for several different publications. Then she started working with the city of Tulsa. She worked in marketing and communications, first in the Public Works Department and then in the Parks Department, sparking a lifetime love for parks and the role that parks can play in building a community. She moved then to the nonprofit world, where she has been additive to Tulsa in her leadership of Up With Trees, which is very dear to Rotary, Communities in Schools, and the Child Abuse Network. Then she began a career in public service. She was elected to the Tulsa Public School Board in 2010. In 2014, she was elected to represent Southeast Tulsa on the Tulsa City Council. In 2016, she was reelected to the council without opposition and served as the chair of our city council. She was then elected for a third term without opposition, but resigned that term when Mayor G.T. Bynum tapped her to take the role of our director of our Parks Department. She has loved our parks so much that she actually named her son Braden after her favorite neighborhood park. She was a former soccer coach, Girl Scout leader, neighborhood association president, and an active community volunteer. She's a proud mother of 2 children, a daughter at Booker T. Washington and a son at Washington University in St. Louis. Her husband, Michael Patton, is the director of Land Legacy, a conservative Oklahoma nonprofit. Again, I have to tell you, and anybody that knows Anna knows that she's a student of whatever she's working on, but she's also very passionate. So we have really an incredible leader for our Parks Department. Please help me give a warm Rotary welcome to Anna America.
And the ceremonial adopting the mic for the short people. Thank you so much, John. And I know that some of you today came out here expecting to hear a basketball coach. So as John said, none of that in my background, a little bit of soccer coach, but I will actually talk a little bit about basketball. Now help me figure out, what do I need to do? Oh, you're getting me on. I don't need to do anything. You're awesome. And if I click, it'll just go. As John said, I've been on the job. It hasn't been real long, about 6 months now. So not brand new, but still in the learning mode and figuring out where we're going mode. But as he also said, parks aren't new to me completely. I worked in the park department 20 years ago, and in my roles working in the mayor's office as a city councilor at Up With Trees, I've worked closely with parks over the years. But it is very, very different from this side when you realize that you're responsible for these things. And just to give you, there, I can work the clicker. Just to give you a sense of what I'm responsible for, I think this surprises a lot of people to realize just how vast the park system is in Tulsa. We've got 135 parks in the system, more than 8,600 acres of parkland. This includes 6 community centers. We used to have 22 at one point, 20 years ago. We're down to 4 sort of traditional and 2 what I would consider specialty centers. We've got 66 miles of trails. This was actually a surprise to me, and I thought I knew a lot about parks. I knew we have trails in parks. The park department also does maintenance on almost all trails in our trail system that are not in river parks. So Creek Turnpike Trail, Midland Valley, Osage Trail, those are all maintained by parks. 2 skate parks, 2 dog parks. This one is near and dear to a lot of Rotarians, and this is probably the park that I visit most personally with my dogs. This is Biscuit Acres out at Hunter Station, and Southside Rotary was instrumental in getting that built, and John Benjamin, who's done a lot of good for a lot of things, but Tulsa Parks was one of them. 5 pools, 15 water playgrounds, 17 splash pads, more than almost 200 sports fields, almost 100 playgrounds, more than 100 tennis courts, although we're trying to convert more and more to those to pickleball, which is increasingly popular. 4 golf courses at the 2 facilities, Page Belcher and Mohawk. Disc golf, the 2 nature centers, and a little PSA here. I have so many soapboxes and so many PSAs, but one of them is, if you haven't ever been out to our nature centers, go. Do yourself a favor. It's an incredible asset. Oxley Nature Center that's at Mohawk and Redbud Valley out east. Incredible. It's amazing that we have natural resources like that in the middle of the city. Picnic shelters all over. The zoo, I saw that the zoo director is here today, and the zoo and the golf courses are both city park facilities. They're operated by private contractors who do a great job there, so we're awfully proud of the zoo. We have, these days, there are around 100 employees in the park system. That will increase by 50 to 60 over the summer. We bring in lifeguards, seasonal workers, people who work with the day camps. And the overall budget, operating budget, is around $23 million. That does include the money that goes to the zoo and the golf courses. We are the largest. We're lucky in Tulsa. We've got 3 amazing public park systems. We're the largest of those 3. I told Richard, I didn't know Richard was going to be here, and I said, I'm giving you a shout out, Richard. So Richard Bales, who's the director of the county park system. So river parks, and a lot of people don't realize that's not part of the city system, but that's a joint city-county program there, and that includes Turkey Mountain as part of river parks, about 1,000 acres. In Tulsa County Parks, which around 800 acres, I hope that's right, don't correct me if I'm wrong, and mostly outside of the city, but LaFortune Park, one of everybody's favorite parks in Tulsa, that's a county park. And then just outside of the city limits, but O'Brien and Chandler are used tremendously by Tulsans, and they kind of see them as Tulsa parks, I think. And of course, you can't forget what really has become our 4th public park system here. This is from the Gathering Place, but the Gathering Place and Guthrie Green both are public resources, public parks operated by the private entity, George Kaiser Family Foundation. So we are really blessed in the diversity of what we've got in parks in Tulsa. In Tulsa city parks, we've got a lot of what I would consider iconic parks. I mean, some of the favorite parks, if I were to go out here and ask you, what are your favorite parks? I suspect a number of you would say Woodward Park, one of the most beloved parks, most beautiful parks in Tulsa. Probably a whole lot of people in this room have had some important moment in your life memorialized in a picture here. This is one of the favorite spots in Tulsa to take graduation pictures or things. Although one that is maybe overtaking that because it's so photogenic with that great skyline view, Centennial Park and 6th in Peoria. I mentioned Mohawk. Mohawk is they're all near and dear to me, of course, but Mohawk is such an underappreciated, I should say, treasure in Tulsa. Our largest park, over 3,000 acres at Mohawk, and it's one of the largest municipal parks in the country. And it's just an amazing resource. We're so lucky to have it. People ask me all the time, and John kind of stole my thunder a little bit on this next one, but what's my favorite park? And I am a good mom, so they are all equally loved. But I have a soft spot, not just for Braden Park, and this is a picture of the pond at Braden Park, but for neighborhood parks like this. That's the real heart of what a city park system does. We've got big, wonderful, spectacular parks, but this is what makes Tulsa. This is where, I bought my first house in this neighborhood, and the fact that if you ask me where my house is, I would have said, I'm 4 houses down on Darlington, 4 houses down from the park. That's how people in this neighborhood look at that park. It really is the center. Any nice day you go out there, you'll see kids fishing or trying to feed the geese. Don't do that, by the way. You're not supposed to, but we'll still do it. You know, kicking around a soccer ball, sweethearts holding hands, sitting on a bench, a retiree picking up trash. This is what a true neighborhood community park does. It builds those connections. And as John said, for us, both my kids were born when we lived in this house, and we, in fact, named my oldest son, or my oldest child, Braden, after this park. He was about 8 before he realized that it wasn't actually his park because his name was on the sign. So that was a little tough for him to deal with. But this is kind of what you want to aim for. Now we are, I'm hoping over the next year or so to officially update our strategic plan. But as I've really kind of gotten in and dug in and we're looking at things, I've identified 5 areas we're really focusing our energies right now and kind of things that we're aiming for. The first of those, and this seems sort of basic, but we're not hitting this yet, but I want every Tulsan to have access to a quality public park. And I want to point out that doesn't just mean a city park. I'm looking, county parks are part of that, river parks are part of that, the Gathering Place and other parks like that, schools are part of that. But every Tulsan, and you can talk about what you think that means. To me, a quality park has 3 key elements. And it can be a little neighborhood park, it could be a, thousands of acre park. But it's got a place to play and be active, it's got a place to enjoy nature or beauty, and it's got a place for people to come together. And that can be a family sitting around a picnic table celebrating their baby's first birthday, or it can be tens of thousands of Tulsans coming together to celebrate 4th of July. This is the National Trust for Public Land does an assessment every year they do broad assessment of parks, but one of the things they do is they look at the 100 largest cities. And I know you can't read, you don't need to read all the statistics on here, but I want you to see up at the top, out of the 100 biggest cities in the country, we rank 60th by their assessment, and they look at amenities and investment and things like that. That's not good enough. I hope we all agree that's not good enough. We are way better than 60th in the country. One of my goals will be is making sure that you all have access to quality parks, so see us move up on that list. The smallest number on there, and you probably can't see that, but it's a 12, and that's public investment. So the area that we do the worst out of all categories there is the investment that we put into our public parks. Which brings me to number 2. And this one, the only place I put an exclamation point in here, take better care of what we've got. And this has just got to be such a core thing. And before I go into these next pictures, I want to do a disclaimer because we have so many gorgeous, just wonderful, incredible, diverse parks in this city. They are true treasures, and it's an honor to be in charge with them. But we are not taking care of them. We are putting the resources in to take care of those facilities. We're not maintaining buildings. We are not being sort of upfront when we build something and say, hey, you know what? This is awesome that we got trails, but you know what it's going to take care of this trail? Let's make sure we're ready to commit to that. And we need to make sure we're communicating that to citizens so they're on board with that. My first couple of weeks on the job, I went out to every building that we have in parks. And I was shocked, and I'm somebody who knows about parks. I've been in parks. I thought I was all knowledgeable on funding parks. I did not know. I was appalled to see how we had let some of these buildings. These are pictures. That one up there I took the second week I was on the job. We literally have roofs that are falling in on some of the buildings. And these aren't storage buildings in the back. These are buildings that citizens are coming in every day, people are working in every day. We have, it's no better when you get outside, and it's from one side of the city to the next. That picture up at the left is one of the loop trails at Crescent Park at 85th and Sheridan. You can see, you wouldn't run on that. That's not safe. That's not safe for people to use. Right below that, 20 miles north at Chamberlain Park, this is a buckling and cracked sidewalk. That's not safe. That's not ADA compliant. Midtown, these pictures over here, that's Zink Park, one of the most beloved parks in Tulsa. Incredible stonework. If you haven't done, it's beautiful on the back side of the park. There's beautiful stones that step down to the creek. They're falling out. One of the trails there, that's closed up at the top. That bench that's supposed to be scenic, you can see the base is falling away. I've already had a couple people come up and tell me additional things to add to my list, by the way, that I didn't know that were happening in other parks. Mohawk I talked about, and this one broke my heart. I have to say, I went out to Mohawk today and went out there and toured him. When I start talking about Mohawk, anytime I'm in a conversation, people start telling me, oh man, Mohawk, we used to have company picnics there. Or I took my kids to the fishing derby. I went to, apparently everybody I know went to the Huey Lewis and the News concert. Turns out I wasn't there, but everybody else was. Or Reggae Fest, or they rode horses out there, or went to rodeo. None of that is happening at Mohawk now. Over the years, as we have had budget cut, we have cut staff over the years, we have literally just gated off a good chunk of this incredible, incredible resource. A few pictures here, you can't tell what that is probably up in that first picture. It's a bench. It's a bench that you're supposed to sit on and look at the beautiful Lake Sherry. If you could fight your way through all that overgrown grass and weeds. This picture is at Mohawk Golf Course, which it's one of the bridges on the cart path. In the time I've been here, we've had to close half of that course, I think 3 times because of heavy rains. The engineers tell us it'll be over $1 million to replace that bridge. I never understand why things cost that much, but they do. We don't have that money, so we keep coming up with trying to figure out ways to fix this and patch this, but you can see how dangerous that is. It can't be open to the public when that happens. So every time it heavy rains, that's what happens, and we get in there and try to fix it. This picture over here, this is the rodeo grounds. You might have forgotten that we even have that at Mohawk. We used to have stables out there. We used to have a lot of equestrian events, completely gated off. That building's still in decent shape. It's not going to stay that way if we don't do something to intervene. We got great playgrounds, and I want to make real clear on playgrounds in particular. We inspect them regularly. Everything's safe. You know, we've got lots of new, neat ones too. But this is Whiteside Park, one of the most popular places to take your kids. And that's what's happening to the playground equipment there. This is a water playground. I think that one's Hunter. It doesn't look bad when you look at it first, which you can't see until you look close. I think there's like 6 heads there of the little things that you're supposed to get on and shoot water out. Only 2 of them still have heads remaining. The others, over the years, have deteriorated, broken, we haven't been able to replace them, and that's what a lot of those are, the condition a lot of those are in. Tennis courts are really embarrassing. We have over 100 tennis courts. A good chunk of them are not usable to play tennis. You can see these cracks, and these I could go in parts all over town and find facilities like this. This is one of the things I was most embarrassed about, and I'll tell you, it was hard to do all this because I went in and I thought, man, I was part of this. I was part of making this happen. I just did not realize it was happening at the time. This is Ben Hill. Ben Hill was one of the community centers way back in the day. When I was working in the park department, we had 22 community centers then. As I told you, we're down to 6. We had more than twice as many employees in the park department then. So you can see the result of those cuts. This center, which is just north of downtown, was closed a number of years ago. And if this were your home, if this were your business, the city would have been on your case a long time ago. You would have gotten tickets. You would have gotten citations. If you didn't fix this, we would have come out and probably torn it down on your dime and sent you a hefty bill, and you would have come to the council, and we would have said, are you kidding? You pay that bill. How are you doing that? This is, and we've just left it like this for years, facing a neighborhood in that community just north of downtown. The entire park, frankly, is in this bad a shape. You might have seen there was a story a while back. I took the council out on a tour, and this is where we started. And I said, this is ours. This belongs to us. This is our responsibility, and this is what we've let happen here. I have one kind of last-ditch effort. We've been trying to see if there's a way to save this building and get some programming there. And we have one group that we're working with. I have someone here I know who's with that group, and I have my fingers crossed because it could be a really great partnership, but it may not be feasible. And if not, we'll probably tear this building down this year and basically have to start over. This building was built in 1975. Absolutely no excuse for it to have gotten to this condition. You may know the city, the mayor, and the council right now are working on a renewal of Improve Our Tulsa. That's the next big capital improvements package. And so all of the departments put in their list of what their capital needs. And I know, want to make real clear, we are not going to get everything on the list. The needs are way, way, way more than what's going to be available. But just so you know some of the highlights of the things I've included, and overwhelmingly my list is rehab, repair, replace, just get things back where they need to be. And some of those things on there, 20 million, close to 20 million, and just basic facility repair. That's HVAC, it's roofs, it's electrical, mechanical, plumbing, security systems, things like that. More than 12 million on playgrounds, water playgrounds, fitness stations, those types of outdoor play elements. money that would go into the tennis, repair, replace on the tennis courts, and a chunk, really want to start that path on bringing Mohawk Park back to what it should and could be for this community. And I know I won't get all of that. I am hopeful that I will get a decent chunk of that. Number 3, get users more engaged. We can have an awesome facility, but if you don't get people out there using it, you don't really, it's not bringing the value to the community that it should. And there's a couple of key ways. Programming, these are going to be the 2 that we're going to focus on. Programming, and Guthrie Green is a really, really good example of this, I think. I can bring this up and it makes sense right away to people because Guthrie Green is a nice park, but it's not a spectacular park. I mean, it's, you know, it's a square, it's not even that much grass, it's got some nice stuff, but you wouldn't go to that park because it's so gorgeous or whatever. You go there because they do really great programming, and it's not, again, it's exercise class, it's movies, it's music, it's picnics, it's stuff like that, and it gets the community to come out there. They're active, they're enjoying, they're spending time together, and that's the kind of impact we can and should be having in parks all across the community. We, studies have shown, there's been a lot of research on these, but each additional supervised activity can increase park use by 48%. And this is an area that we have stepped back almost completely in Tulsa parks. And looking to build some partnerships with some folks in the community. I'm hoping it's as soon as this year. And in particular, we're going to go into some parts of town, North Tulsa, East Tulsa, Johnson Park. I know I see somebody here who's a big fan there. But some areas where we know there's some real high need. And those kids need these activities. The other element is design. And again, walking loop trails. This is another one of my 8,000 soapboxes. But it's amazing the impact that can have in a community. It's one of the cheapest things you can do too, but it can increase park usage by 80%. Just putting a little trail in there, and it can double usage among seniors and teenage girls, which are probably 2 of the hardest groups to get out and be active and have that health impact. So we'll look at those. The number 1 reason people come to parks is to bring kids to play. Every new play element you add can increase use by 50%. So those are some of the things we'll be focusing on. I'm going to tell you about Chamberlain Center. So when I went out in those first couple of weeks and visited centers, I went out to Chamberlain. Chamberlain was one of those 22 centers that have been open. In 2014, mayor at the time proposed closing it, and the council said, hey, we think this is important. It's the furthest north center. We're going to keep it open. And so we put in enough money to fund 2 part-time temp workers, keep it open a couple of hours a day, $33,000 a year. And we've done that every year since. And frankly, I think I saw that in the budget every year, and we kind of patted ourselves on the back and thought, we've taken care of that problem. I went out to Chamberlain, and I was pretty shocked. They weren't getting anything besides that $33,000. I guess we were paying the electric bill, but that was about it. These 2 temp workers were getting everything they could get, borrow, and donated. They had one of those old projection TVs that's like 2,000 pounds that still work, that someone donated to show movies. They were cleaning the toilets themselves. We weren't even paying for cleaning supplies. But they were managing to keep it open and get these kids out. The day I showed up, it's near McLean High School and Gilcrease Elementary School. This little boy on the left, I was standing there talking, and he opens the door and he sticks his head in, and he says, Miss Renee? He said, is the gym open today? And you could see he was just so hopeful. And she said, yeah, honey, it's open today. And the look on his face, he was so happy. He's like, yes. And he runs in, changes to go play, and his friends come in and play with him. So I talked to him. I said, if you got to be king of parks, and you got to do whatever you wanted, what should we do in this park to make it better for you and your friends? And that little guy said, I love this park. I wish it could just be open more so I could come over here. One of those other little kids said, and he thanks for me, and he says, you know, when stuff breaks here, it never gets fixed. It would just be really good if you can fix the broken stuff. Out in the parking lot, I ran into 2 high school students from McLean, 17 and 18-year-old young men. And they were coming over because Miss Renee, again, on her own, had created a 3v3 basketball tournament, and they were coming over to sign up for this tournament. And so I asked them, I said, what could we do to make this park better for you? And they were completely taken aback because you could tell no one had asked them before. And after a minute, one of them said, could you make it so we could have a basketball team to play on? We just want to play basketball. These kids aren't asking us for anything we shouldn't be doing. You know, they want a safe place to go and just do something productive, and we've been taking that stuff away from them. And we got to give it back. which is why I have asked for, we'll see, I've had a lot of asks, you can see, but in the budget that I have submitted, my operating budget, so not my capital, I have proposed we reopen Chamberlain, and I'm hoping that we'll get that through. The mayor, again, has a lot of important things he's got to balance in this budget proposal, but I'm very hopeful that we're going to be able to reopen Chamberlain and start serving those kids. Number 4 on my priority list, using data to make smarter decisions. It's obvious, but it's not something we've been doing in parks. So this is going to inform everything we're doing. A real big one that I'm super excited about right now is we're building a GIS system. It's got all the parks, the amenities, and not just city parks, but county parks and river parks and schools that have recreation facilities. And then they're layering that in with demographic data so I can do like this, which INCOG did for me when I was working on my CIP list. This is a map that shows youth density and low income density and where existing playgrounds are. And it becomes immediately obvious when you look at this, the red spots on there are sort of your hot spots where you've got to say, okay, these are kids, high needs, lots of kids, high needs, and they don't have playgrounds serving them, it looks like. So this kind of data is going, and this kind of process is going to allow us to be so much better on everything that we do. I mean, in terms of where we build, where we maintain, everything. The 5th, and this will be an important one, increased sponsorship and partnership opportunities. We've got, you guys know, and you have been a part of this, Rotary has, but incredibly generous philanthropic community here. We haven't tapped into it to the extent that we should be with our parks, city park system. And that'll be big sponsorships. We do have a Park Friends account that's a city-county way that you can donate to parks that we partner with TCF, and they maintain that money for us. But in addition to that and building up that, I want to create a framework where every neighborhood can create a friend of, you know, Friends of McClure Park, Friends of Archer Park, and I've had a couple people approach me already who want to do that. So on a very small scale, they can invest in and volunteer with and support their parks. I do want to make super clear, though, we need more public investment. We can't just rely on the philanthropic community to step up and take care of this need. This is a basic need. Why do we do all this? We know the benefits. There is a ton of data around this. I mean, besides that we love parks, they have real measurable impact on the community. They make us prosperous, they help property value, they help us attract and retain not just cool young millennials like you guys, but retirees who've got a lot of money they want to invest in this community, young families with kids. All of those folks is what keeps us, you know, parks and trails are part of, we're going to get those people here and keep them here. They make neighborhoods safer. People, I think, are surprised sometimes to realize how much, especially an engaged park, can decrease property crime and increase safety in a neighborhood. The big bang, though, is on health. It's air quality, it's water quality, it's mental health, it's stress, but especially that parks and trails are your best opportunity to get people out, get them active, get them fit, and you can have such an impact on health. And all of a sudden, I'm not going. It's the last couple ones aren't that big of a deal. I only have 2 more. The next one is just saying, when I talk to groups like this, so I can't move it anymore if you guys care. If you can get it to the last one, because it does have my contact info on it. But the, if I'm going to talk to movers and shakers, yeah, just leave it here. I always say, you know, I want to tell you what you can do. And so there's a couple of key things, and it's going to be true for a lot of groups that come, but you can advocate. If parks matter to you, and I hope they do, tell people. You're going to have a chance. They're going to come out with an Improve Our Tulsa package. It'll include parks in it. You know, you'll have other opportunities. Let the policymakers know that they matter to you, that that's part of what you want in your community, and that you're willing to invest your tax dollars, because that's what we're talking about, in making sure we maintain a good park system. You can, of course, donate through your organization or individually or other ways. You know, you can do things, and we've had, I mentioned loop trails. If you've got a business and you have a nearby park in walking distance, you know, for $20,000 you can do a 1-mile looped trail in a park. I mean, what a better way to improve wellness for your employees than to do something like that and encourage them to go over on their lunch hour and take a walk. You'll get a lot better bang for your buck than you will investing in a lot of wellness programs that you might do at your business. And you can volunteer. Tons of volunteer opportunities for individuals, for groups, I mean, from youth sports to Oxley Friends to all kinds of things. I have been incredibly lucky. I have had a career where I've got to have pretty cool jobs that all made a difference and that I really loved. Even in that, this is the coolest job. I have the best job. I have it at the best time. I have a mayor and a council who really understand how much parks matter to a community. We have a community, I give a ton of credit to the Gathering Place and all that. It's really helped elevate, I think, in this community that's like, man, parks are really awesome and we really want to value them. We are a city of parks, just fabulous, diverse, incredible, awesome parks, and I am so incredibly proud that I get to be part of helping sustain that. Thank you. Yeah. Hannibal said to tell you, because we're out of time for questions, but I'm happy to stick around, and I mean that it had my contact info up there. Send me questions, comments, take pictures of problems, or if you're in another city and you see something cool that like, why aren't we doing this in Tulsa? Send that, text it to me. I love that, and it really does help and matter. Thanks.
Let's thank Anna one more time for a great presentation. So a book recognizing today's program will be presented to our partner in education school, Celia Clinton, and the book is Monster Park. And it's been signed by Anna already. So let's not lose sight of that grand Rotary International vision. Together we see a world where people unite, take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. With that, we are adjourned.